Ordinance fixing the salaries of each and every appointed officer, employee, deputy assistant, departmental, and institutional head of the civil city and city utility of the city for the year 2010. This received due pass. I place this up for passage.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
And S090929 is amended several times. This was an ordinance fixing the compensation of elected officials for the city of Fort Wayne, Indiana for the year 2010. As you recall, the amendment would be that the mayor and the common council will not be receiving the 1.5% wage increase. The city clerk's wage increase was kept in the ordinance. So this is the salary ordinance for elected officials for 2010, and this received a due pass.
Did you do it 3 times, amended 3 times on that?
I did not, so
It was amended 3 times.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would, to make it consistent with the clerk's wishes, would move amending this to restore that 2010 figure to the 2009 level for the clerk.
I'll second that.
So that will be
Oh.
the 4th amendment.
All those in favor of that amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Right now, if I may say, Liz, this means we vote yes, all those elected positions are staying the same. Is that
Correct. No elected official in the city of Fort Wayne is receiving the 1.5%.
So now the ordinance is up for passage, is that correct?
Oh, yes, that was the amendment. Thank you. So now, as amended 4 times, we have S090929, the ordinance fixing the compensation of elected officials for the city of Fort Wayne, Indiana for the year 2010, receiving a due pass.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
All right, and the last ordinance in...
Everybody voted for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you shocked, Sandy?
Yes, I'm sure.
And the last ordinance is A090930. This is the budget ordinance for year 2010. This is the ordinance that did not receive a recommendation of the committee, that is appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the several departments of the city government of the city of Fort Wayne, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2010 and ending December 31st, 2010, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time when the same shall take effect. I will not repeat all the amendments that did pass. I think the council is familiar with them.
Can I ask just to make a clarifying comment to see if I understand this right? If we pass this budget, we are approving the 1.5% pay raise and not approving the other cuts?
Correct. If we,
No, you're approving all the other cuts.
No, it's the other
All
way
the other
around.
cuts.
we're approving the 5 cuts.
Approving the 5 cuts.
Can I make
Just
What
Let me-
vote does it take to not approve the 1.5% pay raise?
Let me just reiterate, just
Make sure I
so,
understand
the
that.
budget as presented this evening has a 1.5% increase. That's still in the budget.
Okay.
What was removed from the budget was the mayor's advocate. Do I have to repeat that? Okay. Councilman.
I have a question. Is it a possibility to amend it back to the 1%? Because I don't personally want to give the 1% raise from that vantage point, but it's the lesser of the amount. So 1.5% versus 1%, is it physically possible for us to change that so that I could amend it so that we would be able to give them a 1% raise versus giving them a 1.5% raise? Can I change that vote on the amendment because I voted no on it before?
You can make an amendment.
You can make a motion. You can make a motion. You can't just change, you can make a motion on that.
I would like to
proposed
make a
amendment
motion
and then have
to change
another vote on that.
my vote from
Motion,
Point of order. I think Councilman Didier, what you want to do is move an amendment to the proposed budget, which would make the pay increase 1% rather than 1.5%. Then when we take the formal vote, you can vote for it.
Okay.
Just another point of order, though, of clarification. We've had some discussion offline, if you will, about since this budget did not pass with the recommendation out of committee. It is the understanding that the budget, if the budget does not pass out of committee, then the budget the budget that will be in effect for 2010 is the budget from 2009, which is the budget we passed a year ago at this time. But there is a question of whether or not the amended budget, as it now stands, which includes the increase for the liability for police, $1 million from fire and police pension funds, if that's the budget. Is it the budget we voted on, or is it the budget as it is now revised?
If you don't pass a budget tonight, then essentially what's going to happen is we're going to take last year's budget and we're going to be forced to use it for next year. So the things that you just mentioned will not be part of the 2010 budget.
Right, but my question is, our deputy controller has stated that the DLGF certified the budget we voted on last year, which had no salary increases. But since then, we have amended or revised that budget to include increases for police liability, two $500,000 appropriations from police and fire to...
Those would be, you mean, we've done that previously this year already?
Yes.
Those would be included.
Actually, police and fire is one. That
Those would be included as part of what was already the 2009 budget.
So we would have a huge excess of police and liability, but the wage line would stay the same. And if other line items, say, postage was in excess, that's just an excess, and then we will have that in cash reserve at the end of 2010. But there will be no wage increase if we vote. If the budget doesn't pass, there will be no wage increase, and the 2009 budget will be intact, which includes all the positions that we cut this evening. But we will still have,
No,
The tail end of your budget, you would not be cutting, for example, the two advocates.
that's what I just said. All the positions we cut will be intact.
Would be
Yeah,
intact.
right.
Okay.
Correct.
Just,
But they won't, no one will get a salary increase
no.
if the budget
No,
fails.
that's correct.
I have a question. With the cuts we made now, what was that total amount of money?
$149,145.
Say that again, what?
$149,145.
And if we only gave a 1% raise and a 1.5% raise, what would that new figure be?
Would increase by $310,000.
Yeah,
that would decrease.
The amount of cuts would increase by 310.
Okay,
yeah.
310?
310, 158.
Okay. Thank you, that answers my question. Go ahead. What's Liz's the answer?
I think then the effect of not passing the 2010 budget is to increase the amount of appropriations council will be making by $1.7 million over and above what Mayor Henry proposed for the 2010 budget. And I don't understand how those who were arguing in favor of a 1.5% salary cut against the increase, on the theory that we need to have greater cash savings, would vote against a budget that would lower the cash savings by in terms of appropriations by $1.7 million. It's exactly contrary to what the justification was offered for the 1.5% wage increase.
Unless, of course, since the salary line would stay the same, and that's where the increase was, and we have seen that the city has found savings in the 5200s and 5300 series, then we should bank on savings in those two series, because we know they, going forward, have made their budgets. Now, that will be in the budget, but we should assume that it won't be spent, because they worked very hard to find savings in those other line items in order to come up with 1.5% increase. So although the dollar amount may actually be increased, what we actually spend should be less. Councilman Hines.
Yeah, and my only point